Thank you, Steve. Okay, I'm calling to order the Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, March 6th, 2025. This is a fully remote meeting, and I am calling to order by roll call. Peter Schaefer.
Here.
Stephen.
Here.
Joe.
Here.
Chris.
Here.
Jill.
Here.
Joanna.
Here.
Jeremy.
Here.
And Denise here. Thank you. May I have an approval of the agenda? There's no changes to the agenda tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Made by Peter, seconded by Jeremy. Peter.
Aye.
Stephen.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Joanna.
Aye.
Jeremy.
Aye.
Thank you. Denise, aye. Okay, I'm going to open it up for public comment, and this is for anything that is not on our agenda today. And I see no electronic or physical hands being waved at me, so I will close it for public comment. Okay, first up is review and discussion of the fiscal year 2026 solid waste budget. And Libby, do you want to start, or are you going to hand it to Chris? Or somebody.
Right. I am going to hand it to Chris, and I think he will be supplemented with Brian.
Okay, thank you. Chris, over to you, please. Thank you for being here. I don't know if you're muted. I can't see on my screen.
Yes.
Sorry
Okay,
about that.
thanks. That's all right.
Good evening. So as you're aware, the DPW Solid Waste Division issued a request for proposal to operate the solid waste facility on June 23rd, 2024. Solid Waste held a mandatory pre-bid potential bidders on July 30th, 2024, which was very well attended. Responses to the RFP were due on October 25th, 2024, but Solid Waste only received one response from the incumbent Waste Options. On January 29th, 2025, Solid Waste recommended to the Select Board that they award a contract to Waste Options. This new contract will start December 1st, 2025. Solid Waste, the town's Solid Waste Advisor, George Aronson from Commonwealth Resource Management. The RFP review team has been working diligently on the new WSA asset purchase and sale agreement and transition plan for all operating under the existing WSA that originated 25 years ago with numerous edits. Fiscal year 26 goals for solid waste is to identify ways to increase revenue while at the same time investigating ways to reduce disposal costs to support the enterprise fund. There are provisions in the RFP for no revenue sharing, so the town will be able to keep all the tip fee revenue at the scale. We plan for all to pay the same rates without discounts. Solid Waste will recommend an increase charged on some waste items and implement a charge on items presently not charged for to raise additional revenue. We also want to differentiate, we're going to try to differentiate C&D residuals from category 1 to category 2, which will be a considerable disposal cost savings for the town. We want to build a new billing system to reflect the 8 solid waste functions in the RFP based on the waste service agreement. And we plan on performing engineering and site survey work to evaluate the current disposal practices, future build-out capacity of the landfill, and investigate potential PFAS sources within the landfill through a test pit program. In summary, the fiscal year 26 budget for the solid waste enterprise fund of $18,092,111 is a hybrid budget. based on historical volume tracking, operating under the current waste service agreement and contract for 5 months, as well, and then the remaining 7 months operating under a new waste service contract being presently developed. In the submitted RFP response, there is an increase in cost for some services and a decreased cost in other services, which is being addressed in the new waste service agreement contract. Solid Waste will propose ways to increase revenue, along with generous contributions from the general fund to achieve a balanced budget. We look forward to working with the long-term solid waste planning group, town administration, solid waste consultant, finance director, and the select board to ensure a smooth transition of the new waste service agreement contract going into effect December 1st, 2025. I know I went off script, but there's a lot of information there, and I just tried to summarize it.
Great. Chris, do you want to take us through your anything over, well, all of these are over $10,000. So both operational and the capital items?
Yes.
Just want to give us the highlights of that, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. So on the capital items, we identified 5 capital items that would support the purchase of the composter as well as the transfer station that was approved in the fiscal year 25 budget. Walking through the facilities, talking with Waste Options, looking at repair and maintenance items and things like that that they have done over the years, we determined that we should have monies available to repair and improve the facilities once we own the assets ourselves. These 5 items that I just identified, or that I'm talking about, they're not necessarily going to absolutely happen, but there is a good chance over the course of time that we will have to call upon this capital in order to do some repairs and maintenance for the asset that we own. And then we also requested, seeing that we are going to own the 2 new facilities, the composter as well as the transfer station, we feel it's necessary to purchase and install cameras so that we can, keep an eye on what's going on over there to make sure that, our assets are being taken care of, that there isn't any damage, as well as just to give a good view of what's going on and be more active in operating and working with Waste Options going forward.
Thank you. And the operational expenses, the professional services, could you just explain what those professional services are? Item number 5 in the section above capital.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, 1.5 million.
You know what, Denise, if it's possible, could I ask George Aronson to talk about that?
Sure, of course. George, over to you, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you, George.
Great, thank you, George Aronson, Commonwealth Resource Management Corporation. The professional services, one of the changes that accompanies when that will happen when the town owns the composter and the transfer station, and when they're into the new waste services agreement after December 1st, 2025, I think it's important for the town to have a more active role in the assets that it is owning. And so what you're seeing is, in part, some of the professional services that have been provided in past years and moving forward, but in part some new services as well. I think, for example, the permitting of the landfill, which the town owns, had in the past been done by Waste Options. The plan going forward, and the transition is already happening, is the town will have its landfill engineer doing oversight inspections and also permitting. Likewise, for capital projects on the facilities that the town owned in the past, when Waste Options was the owner, it did capital work. It also had its engineer do process engineering. Going forward, the town will have its own engineer and consultants and what have you do technical work that in the past was done by Waste Options. So there needs to be a budget for those services. I think also the budget going forward, one of the, I'll use the word frustrations in the past, has been that the town hasn't always had survey data in order to do planning for the entire site and for expansion of the landfill and to understand what the whole site build out will look like. So there's also allowances within professional services for surveys that frankly are, you know, information long overdue that we need to, the town needs to do the best planning. So I think those are the components of the 1.5. It's, some of it has been budgeted in past years. There's environmental monitoring, consulting, and a few other items at a lower basis. But I think going forward, these would be additions to the past professional services being provided to the town under that budget line item.
Thank you, George. Other questions from the committee?
Yes.
Go ahead, Joe.
Can we go back to the slide on the revenue? No, yeah, that's it. The other financial sources, that's the town subsidy. Is that correct?
That's
11
correct.
million 11 million 8.
That's correct.
Is there any way to get that down? I mean, it seems to grow annually.
The only way to get it down would be to bring more revenue into the facility, and there's no other way other than that. And that number is it has been growing, and we had been funding it with some set of retained earnings, but that we made a decision, I think, in 24 when we did the additional override of 3.7 million, that was not a stable way to fund this with something that was being certified on a year-over-year basis. So the only other way is to increase the charges for services. And I think as part of this budget, there's a longer term discussion, Joe, about what we're charging and everything, which as part of the current waste services agreement, we have no control over the charges for going over the scale for services at the facility, but in the new one, it will be solely dependent on us to set the rates.
Yeah, I mean, it seems this is, it's hard to provide a service for which you don't get paid enough to cover your cost. And I know everything on Nantucket is expensive, but this is an 11, almost a $12 million use of our funds in 2026. And you wonder just how much of that we can do.
Libby?
I was just going to comment that we spend a lot of time reviewing solid waste numbers. The cost to dispose of the waste on Nantucket is never going to go down. If we want to get rid of our waste, we need to pay to ship it off island for the most part. We are working on, maybe Chris can speak to some of this, on how to reduce our use of trash, reduce the amount of trash that comes into the landfill so there's less to dispose of. But that is, you know, that's like a huge cultural change. In many other countries, they hardly have any trash. In America, quite the opposite. So it is very, very challenging to keep this operation affordable if we don't want to have our trash here.
How do our charges for, and I don't know enough about waste management, but how do our charges compare to the charges in Hyannis for waste management, or in the Hyannis neighborhood?
George,
More or less expensive?
our costs are much more expensive than any other town.
I didn't ask about the cost, Libby. I was asking about the revenues, what we charge.
George, you might be able to address that, but I will say there are some waste streams that we don't charge anything for because of issues that tend to happen when we charge,
Yeah.
like dumping. So the select board has been very, many years ago, abandoned the idea of charging for certain things,
Such
like
as,
refrigerators. George, you can probably list all the rest of them. Hard to manage waste is the category. And I don't think, though, that even if we were to start charging for it, that the charges would completely cover the disposal costs, including transportation. We obviously have to get all of our trash off on some sort of boat that other places do not have to do. But George, if you might be, or Chris, even if you might be able to address Joe's questions.
Yeah, Libby, I'll talk about the elephant in the room, which is right now when residents deliver waste to the 188 Mattocket Road, or when haulers pick it up and deliver municipal solid waste, there is no charge. And that's really very unusual nationally. I mean, that's been done because it's paid for basically through the general fund transfer. And if you had 10,000 tons a year and you started charging $100 a ton or more, you would start chipping away at that number. So I think that's one of the big things here. I think the other question, as Liberty mentioned, there are mattresses, there are bulky items. There have been issues in the past with waste being dumped in the moors, and part of the issue was that, well, if you make it free at the transfer station, or if you control the cost, then you don't have to chase it out of the moors and do waste cleanup. There's a trade-off there, which we're constantly looking at, and it can be looked at again under the new, waste contract after December 1st.
so,
But I think these are
so
the
when
two.
someone picks up my trash at 15 Clifton,
Yeah,
and I can't, it's Sousa or one of the companies,
yeah.
and takes it to the landfill, do they get charged?
They do not get charged for your household trash or for your
Really?
recyclables.
That doesn't make sense.
There are a lot of people who hold that opinion, and I think that's one of the things we're looking at is how do you make that transition from the system we have now to a system where you're raising the revenue directly from those who generate. So I think, there are towns have done that transition. It's been talked about, frankly, for years back and forth on Nantucket, and maybe there's an opportunity to go forward with a system like that. But my suspicion is that it's not something that's going to be implemented in fiscal year 26. I think it's fair to say it's on the agenda going forward once we make the transition to the new contract and see how things go.
With this 11,000,008, and if we do the new Our Island home, that's $25 million a year of money disappearing. I just wonder how long we can keep doing that kind of stuff, but it sounds like there's not a lot of choice right now.
So Joe, I'd point out that let's put Our Island home aside for a moment. But the solid waste is a must do. So that's what it costs us as a community to do it. The fact that we have yet to be able to charge enough to cover the full cost of operation, as George has pointed out, once the contract is changed and so we start on December 1st, I know for a fact, as Libby also pointed out, that this has been a topic that people have been looking at and trying to find ways to do better and to close the shortfall. But at the end of the day, we have to have our waste cared for in the most appropriate way, and this is what it costs. So anyway, Jeremy.
Thank you, Denise. Just picking up on where Joe questioning was going. Do we know of, let us call it the $11 million subsidy, where that goes? In other words, how much of that is for residential, which we just discussed, or how much of that is for commercial? Has anyone taken a look to parse it into its components?
I'll take a stab at that, which is one of the, I'll use the word downsides of the prior waste services agreement is that the compensation structure and the cost structure did not match the costs of handling individual waste streams. So that there were certain tasks for which there was no payment in the formula, and yet they cost a lot of money, and other tasks were for which the town was overpaying. And so I think one of the big efforts in going forward with the waste services agreement was to finally get a scope of services and a set of, and a service fee that match each other. So we know what the town is paying for, and then we can start working on how to get those fees down, because the cost is related to the quantities, and I think, and the services being provided. So I think, you know, this has been an effort of multiple years to get here. I think we're going to get there, and then, you know, we can start looking service area by service area and fee by fee, how to match things better and make some progress in that regard. So,
and what is the process to deal with this elephant in the room once the town gets control of the waste stream?
well, I think, I think, and I'll just say that it's a process that goes through the select board, and I'll just let others describe how that would happen.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if we're waiting for somebody to speak, but I think John Giorgio has a response.
If I may, Madam Chair, I hope this is not lost on everyone, but it is also very unusual in my experience for a town to use the override process in order to pay for a service such as solid waste. So Libby can give you the details on this, but several years ago, the policy decision was made to seek an override in order to fund the solid waste services. And so whether you pay a user fee when you drive up to the gate, or it's included in your tax rate, the individual resident is paying for it. You can talk about revisiting that question, whether or not the override is sufficient to cover the cost. I don't think it probably is at this point, but that is pretty unusual, at least in towns, to use the override process to pay for this kind of a municipal service. Under the general laws, the select board set solid waste user fees. So it's within the jurisdiction of the select board to do that.
Thank you, John. Any other questions for the committee? Chris, I'm curious about CD1 to CD2. And you said you're going to be able to change the CD designation, hopefully, and then therefore there'll be cost savings available by doing that. Can you describe in like I'm 5 years old, the difference between CD1 and CD2?
Sure, Denise. So on the construction and demolition debris, there are 3 different categories. One being basic mixed construction and demolition debris, another one being residuals, and another one being a mixed bulky waste.
Okay.
All 3 of those can be received at the transfer station. Today, solid waste, Mass DEP has a regulation referred to as a minimum performance standard. Minimum performance standard is a process that you can get approved through Mass DEP that would recognize all of the source separating that the town does, as well as recycling that the town does, and all the services performed by the town to reduce the amount of land ban type materials that could be in solid waste or construction and demolition debris in particular. If we can get approval for MPS, there would be a considerable savings to the town, upwards of $30 to $40 a ton for disposal. So that's what we're working towards. It's going to be an involved process to do that because we do not have a good track record on moving recyclables off the island based on a number of factors, but mostly in particular, slots that we can get with the Steamship Authority. So we concentrate on moving the material that we have to move, the construction and demolition debris, the Nernick type material that we do not have ample storage space for. And so by going through this process, working with our engineer that we are working with and George Aronson's assistance as well, we will be petitioning Mass DEP within the next couple months to get designation as MPS approved so that we can take advantage of that. Case in point, the Nernick material that we were shipping out as a construction and demolition debris type material, we now have it kind of reclassified as MSW. And today we are saving $40 a ton on that material that we are shipping off island.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
Mhm.
Joanna?
Hi, I just want to understand something that was said. So when this contract gets approved and renewed, we will then consider charging consumers for dropping off trash at the dump. Is that true?
Joanna, that's my goal, and I need to work with the solid waste, long-term solid waste group, town admin, George Aronson, in order to determine what and how we should go about that in order to raise revenue. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I would just share that, you know, I have some other experience in this area, and this whole concept of people dumping things where they shouldn't be is real and happens, but you can also charge nominal amounts of money for those things to be dropped off at the dump. But the other thing that I have seen work well is like a punch card system where you go to the dump and it's $1 a bag and you get punched and you have to pay. And so, you know, in terms of knocking down this deficit, that's not a bad place to start, considering how much trash is generated by the island and having people be responsible for, you know, trying to conserve as much as possible. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Any other questions for Chris or Brian in respect of the budget, which we will approve on the 11th when we go through Article 8, general fund budget, or the enterprise budget, well, both enterprise and there we go. Okay, Chris, thank you. George, thank you as always. Much appreciated. I always learn a lot from the both of you. So good. All right, thank you. Okay, now we're moving on to discussion, deliberation, and potential motions on warrant articles for the annual town meeting 2025. First up is Article 14, which we did discuss. I believe Mike Burns, we've come back to the original number on that, the supplemental appropriation, Tom Nevers Road Bike Path.
Correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mike. So therefore, we did discuss it before committee, but if you have questions for Mike, then please go ahead. And seeing, Peter, you had a question?
No, I'm ready to make a motion.
Seeing there's no questions, go right ahead, Peter.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Okay, made by Peter, seconded by Jill. Roll call. Jeremy?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Denise, aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay, Article 15, Article 15, appropriation fiscal year 2026 enterprise funds operations. Brian, I'm going to turn this to you. I
Madam
thought we
Chair,
were
as
postponing this till
we
the
are,
11th.
this had already been posted after, by the time we had discussed that, so,
Okay.
we would be moving that to the 11th as well as the general fund, as we had discussed, Madam Chair.
And so also Article 16, the capital funds? No.
No, Article 16 can be discussed tonight. There
Okay.
is one change that I would like to take the committee through, which I think you are aware of. Stephen, could you just put that up for me, please? So everything in the article is consistent with the Capcom recommendations, with one minor change that I just wanted to note for the committee. As the committee is probably aware, we went before the select board for a declaration of an emergency relative to the ability to move rather expeditiously for the installation of a mobile PFAS treatment system. I don't think it shouldn't say airport, but that will correct that, Madam Chair. But we need to have a funding source in place for this at town meeting. We're currently going to be going through getting DOR's permission to expend in excess of appropriations now that we have a very preliminary idea of what it's going to cost. And we've added a request to authorize a borrowing for up to $5 million for this project. It's going to come in less than that, but we are trying to make sure that we have the necessary coverage as they ramp up to get this installed as expeditiously as possible. So when we go to DOR to ask for an authorization to expend in excess of appropriations, they will ask how we plan to cover that deficit. And we will be telling them that we have a warrant article at town meeting for a borrowing authorization to cover the expected cost of the installation. It is going to be substantially less than 5 million, but we are just trying to make sure that there's no unexpected issues that arise that would potentially make us not be able to complete the project timely.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Questions from the committee? Joe?
This paper that's on the screen now, is this something that we've seen? I have an aged hard drive, but I wouldn't mind if young Stephen could send me a copy of this. Thank you. With the exception of the one that I just discussed, Joe, at the last one, for the water, for the 5 million, everything else was what was approved and what Jill discussed and presented, both the select board and when FinCom in attendance at the select board meeting for Capcom recommendations. So all of those projects are all the same. And they are all exactly the same identified funding sources as was outlined in the report. We made no changes to that whatsoever. Okay, I'd like to look at this.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you.
So Brian, quick question. On the 5 million here, I didn't see the select board discussion on the emergency funding for this. So this particular project would not have gone through Capcom.
It would not have, because it came long after their process had gone through. So we had gone to the board, given the timing that the water company needs to be able to procure it and get it delivered here and get the pad installed and get everything up and tested. So it did not go to Capcom. That's correct.
Well, as you know, I don't love projects that come to us that skip Capcom.
I certainly understand that, have tremendous respect for that, Madam Chair. I think unfortunately this was a situation that arose that the water company determined that they would like to be able to have this well available as a backup for the summer. And the only way to put it online is to put this mobile treatment system onto that well.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Brian, I haven't seen a description of what this is. And I don't know, is it $2 million or $4 million? And what is the technology that is treating the water here? Is there a description of what this machine is that's going to go on a cement pad at the airport or by this well?
It's actually on well 15 at the water company, so we'll have to modify this. I will have to find it, Jeremy, and send it to you. I'm not sure that I have it right in front of me, but I'll send it to you. That's.
Because I don't know. I'm sure we need it, but this description here is sort of a pig in a poke. I don't really know what it is.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Jill. Thank you. Any further discussions on that before I go to a roll call?
Yeah, is it possible to defer this until we have a description of what this is?
So Jeremy, help me understand this because we are getting down to the wire here. Okay,
Let-
so yes, we can defer it, of course. If you need it deferred, we can. But even if it's described, even with an accurate description, will that change your mind that we need this?
Isn't this for the people that are getting PFAS in their drinking water?
This is for a well that they want to bring online for the
Right.
summer. And so therefore it's a mobile unit that will sit next to the well and clean it from PFAS. So it's for an extra well they want to be able to bring online for the summer, as I understand it.
But
Joe?
again, Denise, I don't understand if this is.
Jeremy, I didn't hear you. You broke up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying, I don't understand if this is a testing device or is this a PFAS removal device? I'm sorry, I just don't know what it is.
Okay.
It is a PFAS removal device.
Madam Chair, Arthur Gasparo, I might be able to just
Yeah.
offer a little bit of, I haven't seen the stuff for the water company, but with my experience from the airport, they put in something very similar because of the moat around the fuel farm that we had to do a temporary one of these systems. The best way I could describe it is like a big pool filter, and it has activated carbon inside of it. The ones that they had at the airport were like a trailer. The water goes through it. Ultimately, there's a lot of surface area of the activated carbon that holds the PFAS. I envision it's probably very similar to that. So I think big pool sand filters is it's basically just a cylindrical container that contains the activated carbon, and I suspect it might be similar to that. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, thank you, Art. That is helpful. Okay, Stephen? Kathy Baird, thank you. Stephen, go ahead. Stephen Morey.
Yeah. Denise, through you to, I guess maybe, well, I don't know, Tim. If this didn't go through Capcom and we don't have anyone from water company to describe it, why don't we? Why don't we have a better understanding of what this is? Art, I appreciate what you're saying, and maybe this device is very similar to what the Airport Commission purchased for the airport, but is it?
Okay, and in an effort to save time, I will move this to the 11th. So we'll defer this to the 11th, and then Libby, if we can get Mark Willett to come and explain this piece of equipment, we will then revisit it then.
And we don't have a motion on the table.
We do.
We do, and it was seconded, yes. So, so John, what's the process? Does Peter and Jill have to
Madam
withdraw
Chair,
their motion?
Oh,
Madam Chair, unless they both agree to withdraw, the committee should vote on this. You could amend the motion to defer it until March 11th. Postpone consideration until March 11th. That would be an appropriate amendment. Or they can simply withdraw the motion.
I withdraw my.
Jill, Peter, can you
I
withdraw?
don't, if somebody wants to be a second.
I will
I think
second. I will
People
second.
that are drinking PFAS aren't very happy We have a lot of people coming in for the summer. We need to get this done. And us looking at a giant pool filter isn't gonna make one damn bit of difference whether we need it or not. We need it.
Yeah.
So I'm leaving my motion on the table.
Well,
And-
Peter, what is it then? Maybe
Motion to adopt.
No, I understand what your motion is. What is the thing that we're purchasing?
It's a filter to filter out PFAS from water in a well.
Okay.
My
So-
understanding is in the technology that there is a lot of controversy over this, and a lot of this technology doesn't work. And I'd like to understand how an activated carbon filter can actually take out a long chain PFAS. I'm
You have
not
a
sure.
PhD in chemistry, Jeremy?
What's that?
You have a PhD in chemistry?
No, not a PhD, but I do have a BA in chemistry. All right, and I actually study this stuff. So I would just like to understand this before we approve $5 million.
I leave my motion on the table.
I'm going to call on Curtis Barnes. He's a water commissioner. Curtis, would you be able to shed some light on this for the committee and see if it's helpful? And thank you, Joanna, for your second. So if nothing else, we will be voting on this motion to adopt with a second. But Curtis, I think you can provide some light for us.
Thank
please.
you. Yes, the commission discussed this at great length. Mark Willett has done a lot of research on it, and it's pretty much what Art described. It's a filter that will take out the PFAS, and we need it as a backup on 15 in case we have another veranda type fire. But the technology is very good, according to Mark, and our commission voted unanimously to support it.
Thank you, Curtis. Jill?
I just want to ask Curtis, to the chair. Curtis, when did you all vote on it?
It was at our last meeting, which was about a month ago. And that's why it became through as an emergency, because it was last minute. And there are units like this elsewhere, but of course, Mark as the director, does all the research. He's on top of it. We've been working on PFAS for a long time. And he feels very strongly that this technology is good technology. And again, as I say, Art described it pretty well.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Curtis. Noah?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief, and I'm not here to take a position or dare to inform the FinCom on what to do. But as far as our system, the efficacy is 100% is filtering out the PFAS-6 compounds, as well as the other off-book compounds that are PFAS that the method tests for. Of course, we're happy to show this to any member of the public or FinCom. Just please reach out to staff. You're welcome to tour the facility. Again, I'm not suggesting voting a certain way. I'm just feel like I'd share some of that information that we have from operating what I understand to be a similar unit.
Thank you, Noah. That was helpful. Chris?
Thank you. I've got a lot of sympathy for my colleagues who aren't inclined to sort of vote on something without having a full description. I appreciate Curtis's description was very helpful and Noah chiming in, but I'm a little bit confused here procedurally, because I think I'm inclined to vote no as well, to put this off till there's a little bit more information. But then I guess we would have the opportunity to reconsider, one of us who voted no, because I certainly want to make sure this gets addressed before town meeting.
Jill?
Yeah, I appreciate Chris, Denise, Stephen, you all saying that, because I do think even I of course want this to go through and pass, but it is a good point to bring up that we usually do put things through Capcom. And by the way, Capcom has met within the last month, I believe twice. So it was news to me. But we still want it. I still want to pass it. I'm not saying we don't, but the process just seems uncomfortable this time.
All right. So, Peter, you put in your motion, Joanna seconded it. I am reluctant for the committee to end up voting down the enterprise fund's capital budget for this one, because of this one item and the sticking point for some of the committee members. So having said that, our option are, Peter, for you to change your motion to defer it to March 11th, and then people who need paperwork can get paperwork. And Joanna, to change your second to second that, and then we can vote on that. I am concerned at this point. I don't know how the committee will vote. I have long lost the ability to predict that. So I am concerned at this point to call for a vote and then us vote down the enterprise funds capital expenditures because of this one item.
Right.
So, Peter, I understand your point. I applaud you for it. And I am close to be on bended knee to ask you to change it to deferring to March 11th.
Okay, I will withdraw and defer. However, I would like to have one of the people who was against it give us a report on what they found out.
Okay, and
Can-
seeing
can
as
I-
Jeremy
can
has
I-
to be, Joanna, go ahead. You
Can I say
don't
something?
have to as well, yes.
Yes, and I'm happy to do so too. I think two things. One is that I don't think there's anybody on our committee who doesn't think that we need this device. Did the water company not follow the proper procedure and go through Capcom? Yes. Nobody here likes that. We don't like that in general. We've been down this road before, but spending time, and the other point that I want to make is the water company is essentially spending their own money. We're just authorizing a borrowing. They're paying this back. And Mark has spoken to this committee about PFAS many, many times. And so I completely trust his judgment on whether or not we need this device. But I agree, it is not in it's not in our best interest to vote any of this down. So if that's the direction we think that we're going to go, because some folks would like a little more explanation, fine, we can get that. But I'm not sure it's the best use of our time.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, Peter, I'll ask you to change it to defer, and then I'll ask Joanna to second that motion, and we'll vote on that to March 11th.
I will change it to defer.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Peter. I appreciate it. Joanna, I appreciate it very much. Chris,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Denise, no, I didn't want to defer it. There we go. Okay. All right. Next one.
I didn't want to
Article
defer it either.
Article
Nor did I.
76. Article 76. I'm just kidding. I'll vote aye as well. So we're there. All right, unanimous aye. David Visco et al., General Bylaw Amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Town Sewer District Map Change, Rachel Drive, South Shore Road, and Falcon Drive. And David Gray, I will tell you, I was remiss and did not watch the select board last night. So this will be news, at least to me, as to what the sewer commissioners came up with on these articles.
Yeah, you didn't miss too much. I was gonna take and jump in and try to explain some of the carbon filtration stuff for you, but I kind of opted out of that. Article 76 currently lies within a needs area considered in the CWMP of 2016 and the master plan. This one was approved last night by the select board based on it being in a needs area for the capacity at the treatment facility.
Okay, thank you, David. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to support the sewer commissioners.
Thank you,
Second.
Chris. Okay, second, made by Chris, seconded by Peter. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
I haven't really seen the pipe, so I don't know how thick they're gonna, no. Aye.
Peter. Okay. Okay, moving on. Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Okay, Denise, aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, 77, Christopher Fraker et al. Blah, 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 blah. Town Sewer District map change 42 Monahanset Road, please. David?
Okay, it's a matter of time. I can just take and all the rest of them were all rejected by the select board last night to not approve adding them to the districts. We can get into extensive discussions if we want to, but Article 77, 42 Monahanset Road was not approved to be added to the sewer district by the select board.
Or 78, 79, 80.
They were
Those-
all rejected by the select board last night, but we can go over each one if you want to, but
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, hold on a second. And so at this point, well, let's do 77 first, because then Stephen Morey has to recuse for 78 and 79. So 77, is there anyone that wants to
For
speak
the Board
to?
of the Sewer Commission? Oh, sorry. Is that what we're doing?
I'm just seeing if anybody has any questions first, Jill, and then I will ask for a
Sorry.
motion. Thank you. That's all right. It's a little bit confusing today. So any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. So go ahead, Jill. Motion to support the, yeah.
A motion to support the Sewer Commission. Motion.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter. Hold on a second. My computer just went away. Now you're all back. Okay. Any other comments before I ask for roll call? All right, seeing none. Chris,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Joanna.
Aye.
Did I miss anybody? No. Denise, aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right. So Stephen, you are recused as a FinCom member, and then you are live as a citizen. On 78 and 79, Stephen, did you want to say anything?
Let David go first. And
Okay, David already said that the sewer commissioners did not approve 78, 79, or 80, but you're not Cliff Williams, so I was only asking you about 78 and 79.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you. So I'm not here to ask the finance committee to overrule the sewer commissioners. There was a substantive discussion, and the checklist did not reach 9 points, which is the threshold. It reached 8 points for Article 78, Article 79. I think should have reached 7. It got 8, which I suppose I should be grateful for, but it was still short of 9, so it doesn't matter much. And I just, for the finance committee, I think there's a different issue here. The issue is that this effort, my effort with this property in changing the zoning and in adding the property to the sewer district, has been in an effort to create year-round attainably priced housing with preference for town employees. And that is going to be probably impossible to do without sewer. It certainly will be, if it is possible to do, it's going to be at a considerably higher cost to the taxpayer than it might otherwise have been. It's significantly more expensive to install the types of sewer systems that are required here to produce housing. And there will be fewer dwellings and fewer bedrooms possible. That's not to say that my goal had been to maximize the number of dwellings or maximize the ground cover or maximize the number of bedrooms in the area. In conversation with neighbors this week, I had proposed to limit the entire site, which is approximately 5 acres, to 18 dwellings. Right now, under current zoning, without sewer and no zoning change, there could be 15 dwellings. And so I think 18 dwellings is a reasonable, moderate increase. The point can be made tonight, and it would be true, that there are no regulations and deed restrictions in place today. And that's because there can't be. You know, this is still an open negotiation, both with neighbors, planning board, and until last night with the sewer commissioners about what was appropriate. But, you know, I feel that we're closing the door on what is, or maybe now we might say was, an opportunity to develop the type of housing which in our department head meetings a couple weeks ago, almost every department head told us was the biggest challenge facing their ability to operate efficiently in the town, which is town housing and stable housing. And I put forward a plan that would have made it possible to create permanently attainably priced housing, home ownership opportunities of the type that we need to retain, to attract and retain employees of all different types. And, you know, sewer was a big piece of that. So again, that's all a lot to say that I'm not asking you tonight to overrule the sewer commissioners, but as the finance committee, you all have different things to consider. And so you might consider the tens of millions of dollars that have been put forward to housing efforts. And this would have been, and still could be, although the opportunity is very slim perhaps at this point, this could be a cost-effective way to achieve some of our housing goals as a community and as a town. And that's all.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions or comments from the committee? Peter? And then
Yeah,
Joanna?
Stephen, if we overrule it, what would be the process for you, other than it would just be town meeting?
Yeah, the process would be the same. I mean, it would largely be ceremonial on your part. The threshold for, or the quantum of vote that I need at town meeting would be 2/3, whether or not finance committee overrules, so to speak, the sewer commissioners. If the sewer commissioners had supported the articles, the quantum of vote would have been 50%. But at this point, until and unless they would reconsider, the requirement's now 2/3.
Chris?
Yeah, I appreciate Stephen saying he doesn't expect us to overrule, because I think it would be pointless for us to overrule the sewer commissioners. I also think that they were able to wade through a lot of the issues last night and get to some real legitimate issues that they made their ruling on. I will say it was super disheartening for me, though, to see people chiming in at on a sewer discussion about automobiles and a bunch of stuff that had nothing to do with sewer, that made it really clear that the whole point of their commentary on the sewer was just to keep this affordable housing project from going forward. And I think Stephen raised some really legitimate calls or issues for us all to consider about how we're going to move forward on affordable housing that this process has demonstrated. So sorry to take the time on that, because I think we know where the vote's going, but I thought it was just worth mentioning.
Thank you, Chris. Joanna, and then David, I'll come to you after Joanna. So Joanna, go ahead.
Thank you. I think that this is a very challenging discussion for our group for a couple of reasons, because we have worked very hard over the past several years to take a very serious stab at affordable housing. And we've invested a lot of money in this as a community. And I think that when you have a small scale developer coming forward and trying to present a solution in light of all of the other things that we know and have heard and worked on inside of the last 5 years, I don't think that we can blanketly say no to everybody who comes forward with the intention of developing something affordable. And I think that if we're serious about affordable housing, we have to make some exceptions for some of these things. And I don't want to weigh in on whether or not the sewer commissioners were justified in their decision. They could very well have been. But this is Stephen's second attempt to do this. And we've had many, many conversations about other sorts of developments and other developments on Nantucket that are much broader in scale. And so what the impact of making a decision that prevents Stephen from developing this property does is it forces him to develop it for people who are not year-round residents. And I'm not saying that's all patently bad either. We're just making a decision to do something other than provide housing for people who live on Nantucket. And Stephen may make out better by selling the houses for more money and doing it in that regard, but it's not better for our community. And I don't have a solution for how we handle the finance committee, negating a vote of the sewer commission is probably not strategically the right thing to do. But is there, what I would challenge us as a group to do, is there a way for us to support alternative developments as a group through consensus of vote, where we are encouraging people to come up with these solutions? Because Stephen has done the work to come up with a solution. And essentially, we're voting on something that has been presented to us and shared to us from various lenses, largely from neighbors who are opposing more development in their area. And I get that, but there's got to be some place where we can strike a compromise. And that's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. David, you wanted to say something?
I do. None of these properties are identified in any of the needs areas in any of our planning reports, CWMPs, master plans, and the wastewater flows from these properties are not included in the capacity of the current treatment facility. So if we take flows for I'm all about housing because I need help and I don't have help and I don't have housing. But I'm looking at the facility and the process and everything, and I have a consultant on tonight as well if we need it. But if we start to take away flows that are already dedicated for the treatment facility for Mattocket, Somerset, Raceway, anywhere else that was been considered a needs area since 2014, we're going to have to start taking away properties that are already in some of these needs areas. The article above, Rachel Drive, it's in the Mycomet Pond needs area. It's in the needs area that gets excessive amounts of nitrogen, et cetera. But none of these properties at Woodland or Skyline Drive, the flows were not included in the capacity of this treatment facility. And if we start to go outside of the needs areas more and more, we're going to have to start doing more and more upgrades here in the tens of millions of dollars to be able to handle the capacities and the flows. Never mind fight the erosion that we're dealing with here right now on the South Shore. So I just needed to get that out as simply as I could, just to tell everyone this is what I said last night multiple times. My consultants have said the plant has not been fully built out. I understand that. Is there physical capacity in the facility? There could be, but if all the new Title V regulations and stuff come through and everybody else in the needs area has to get put into the facility, we will lose capacity very quickly.
Thank you, David. Joe?
I just want to support what Joanna said. I mean, we have a developer who is prepared to risk his capital and has yet to ask the town for help, who appears, as I understand the numbers, to be able to create bedrooms that at a cost of $500,000 a bedroom. That is a bargain in Nantucket. And to not do what we can to help that go forward, and I Googled the site just to see what it looked like from the air. It's a mess. This should go forward one way or t'other. And I agree that it's not maybe our job to overturn the sewer commission, but if we're ever going to make a dent in Nantucket's housing problem, we're going to have to find a way to get stuff like this done. And we have a person prepared to risk their own money to do it. I think it's a shame not to make it happen.
Thank you, Joe. Jeremy?
I'd like to follow up on what Joanna was saying and ask Steve a question and what Joe was saying.
Go ahead.
Steve, I would argue that technically the sewer commission turned you down for their rules and regulations. That occurred. We're all discussing here that there is a bigger opportunity that technically they don't have to deal with. And arguably, this committee has an opportunity to deal with a bigger picture. And so I was wondering if you could give us an argument as to why strategically we should override the existing technical factors to support this.
Okay. Well, if there is a checklist, which I've referenced, the Article 78, which is the portion of, I don't want to get too into the details, but it's the portion of the property which is in half-acre zoning that matches the rest of Woodland Drive. That's the property that is not subject to a zoning change. That Article 78 scored 8, would score 8 if I have, if I provide David with a plan, a connection plan, which shows a suitable pipe size, Peter, that would allow for connection from the rest of the street. That's a requirement for any connection. And so, you know, when I submit that plan, there will be 8 points. There's another question on the checklist, which is this property an affordable housing development under 40B or 40R? Chapter 40R is an overlay district which has been enacted in some towns in Massachusetts to encourage the development of affordable housing. I don't know why we have that question on our checklist, because we never adopted Chapter 40R. So it's not possible to do. But what we do have, and what we've recently done over the past couple of years, we've set up a framework and a definition for attainable housing, which is different than affordable housing. It's a different level of affordability. But that is the level which I'm trying to serve. And it's the level that you know, many people in the housing sphere would tell you is the area of greatest need. And so on Tuesday, I was before the Affordable Housing Trust with a plan that said, hey, without any rezoning, just look at these 4 lots. I can create attainable housing on these 4 lots at a per square foot price that is about 55% of what the town supported the Wigglesway apartment complex development. So that's a bargain. And, you know, if I were a finance committee member right now, I would say, hey, that's a pretty good deal in comparison to what the town has committed for instance, the employee housing on Waite Drive. It's approximately 1/3 per bedroom or per dwelling as what we committed for the construction only on those sites. And so there is a good financial case for working with private developers who can move at much greater speed and produce, I don't mind saying, a greater product and at much lower cost. And so those would be the arguments which are germane to a finance committee meeting and maybe not to sewer commissioners.
So Steve, is it fair to say that the economics of your project are cheaper and are more beneficial to the island as a whole than much of the affordable housing subsidies we've done to date? And if we followed all of the technical checklists of other committees, next to no projects are going to get to a yes. So doesn't that then require some other committee, let's say higher up the food chain, that has to take a look at more things and make a more difficult decision?
The first part of what you said is true, and I'd like to agree to both parts, but it wouldn't be appropriate. And for instance, the Wigglesway property was already in the sewer district. It didn't need a sewer map change. And the Waite Drive property is in the sewer district, doesn't need a sewer map change. So while those are much greater expenses as broken down per square foot or bedroom or however you might want to do it, than what this project would be, it's not exactly the same issue. You know, there are fewer and fewer opportunities around the island to do any sort of development, but there are properties like the town owns property on 135, 137 Orange Street. That's in the sewer district, won't have the same issues as what I'm talking about. And so, it's a good, you know, business or it's a good investment from the town to support a project like mine, but it's apples to oranges when it comes to sewer, unfortunately.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. David, go ahead, and then Peter and Jill, I'll go to you.
Just one other thing, if everything's going to be out on the table, these lots only became 4 lots in September of 24, when there was an approval not required planning board meeting that approved these lots to become that. It was not up until, it was up until just September is when these lots became individually the 4 lots.
Right, but the zoning was the same since the 70s, David.
But the plan was just approved in September.
I'm not sure what that has to do with anything, but I agree.
I mean, you talked about a couple of other town-owned properties. There's 9 lots in Tacoma Way that are all in this town sewer district, have sewer access, that are owned by the town. I mean, the biggest problem, and I keep saying it, and the flows were not part of the treatment plant's capacity as it sits now. If we continue to go outside the needs areas, I will have to come in front of this committee in a few years seeking 15 to 20 million or more to take and upgrade this facility, never mind PFAS treatment that's coming in probably greater numbers than that.
David, through you, Madam Chair. David, when we met a month ago, I asked you if it were possible that in the future, properties which are already in the sewer district might not be able to get, say, 6 bedrooms that they were looking for, but only get 5 because we had capacity issues at the plant. And you told me that that would never be the case. So here we're talking about 4 half-acre lots, which might have, I don't know, 20, 24 bedrooms. 24 bedrooms are not available at the plant. And we have the rest of Woodland Drive, which has been in the district since when? And none of those properties have connected. Were those flows calculated?
Those flows were added as part of the Richmond group. The other lots in Woodland Drive were originally added as part of the Richmond group subdivision.
Gotcha.
And that was before my time, so.
Okay, but those but those are calculated at the treatment plant.
I was not part of that part of the calculations.
Okay, Jill, I'm going to go to Jill, and then I'm going to go to Peter, and then I'm going to.
I just want to ask Denise, through the chair, are these two going to keep debating this? They debated it last night. Is that where this is going? Do we want to keep listening to this? You know, I have plenty of comments I could make and would, but I know we want to get going, and the sewer commission has spoken. Stephen, if you want to keep talking, it's okay. I just want to understand where this is going.
Thank you, Jill. Peter, let me just go to Peter because his hand's raised, Jill, and then I will take it from here.
Maybe
Peter.
we can do a PFAS treatment plant and an R-Island home as one unit.
Okay, all right.
But that's not what I'm going to say. Stephen, if it gets voted down at town meeting, regardless of whether we endorse it or not, what are you going to do?
Doesn't matter. Actually, I don't think Peter has to, Stephen, I don't think you actually have to answer that now. Because it's, go ahead.
The answer is there won't be affordability restrictions applied to the properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Here's what.
I do have
I'm
a
gonna try to
consultant online too, if you need to hear from my consultant at all.
Thank you, David. I think we're good. So here's how I'd like to summarize this. As everyone has pointed out, it would be quite unusual for the finance committee to disagree with the sewer commissioners because we are not sewer commissioners. And at the same time, it doesn't preclude us from putting in a comment, regardless of what our vote turns out to be, to say, we understand that that this is a unique opportunity, that and this is where we need Joe Grouse, because nobody's better at comments than Joe Grouse. But anyway, that this is a unique opportunity for the community, because a private developer is wanting to put in housing that we desperately need at an attainable level. And yes, we understand the constraints that are in place due to all the things that happen, that in respect of the sewer checklist, et cetera, and all these other things. But having shown a significant willingness to work with the neighbors from where this started to where this is now, we would encourage the community to try to find creative ways to, or something. As you can see, off the top of my head, that's not my skill set today. But I would be happy for us as a committee to add a comment to our vote on this, if that would be. Jill, save me from myself here.
No, I mean, I don't mind doing that comment. I need to make a bigger point to the board, because we're kind of like, you all are talking as if you're affordable housing experts. Stephen did go to the AHTF. I don't know that they gave you, Stephen, did they give you a letter saying they supported the project? I mean, I'm sure they're favorable, but I haven't seen that. You're asking for a zoning change. That's a privilege. You're asking for a sewer change, another privilege.
As a matter
You
of
want a
fact,
restriction.
as a
Wait,
matter of
Stephen,
fact,
just let me finish, please. Let
I'm
me
not
finish.
asking for a zoning change. So you can say things, but you should say correct things. And I'm not asking for a zoning change with respect to the property that's the subject of Article 78, which is what we're discussing.
Yeah, but you're asking to go to R20.
It's already R20.
Well, you wanted the R10, you went to R20, and I commend that, and I totally support that, by the way. But you did want a bigger zoning change, and then you're asking for sewer, you want a deed restriction, so that means our tax dollars are going to fund the project again. And I don't know what else you're gonna ask for, and I think, to me personally, even though I want you to do a project, Stephen, I do. I just feel like it's a lot for everybody right now. And it seems like, unless it was kind of, it's hard to support it if it's not wrapped in a bow. I mean, you're talking about David Gray and the AHTF and the sewer commissioners. Like, this is a lot of people who have looked at the project, and it doesn't seem like it's there yet. Is there something that you can do to get it there by May? Like, should we look at this again later?
The project will not be around after May. Okay, this is the second time around. If people are not interested in supporting the project, then it won't be deed restricted, and will continue to build housing at significantly higher prices and much denser, which is the pattern that the town has supported previously. I'm trying to present an alternative, and I agree with you. There is not support for it, and so it's not likely to go forward.
No, Stephen, it's not that, but you know what would help? You do have a project on septic, do you not?
Not that can be affordable, no.
No affordability at all on a septic. It's only market rate.
That's correct.
No possibility. No bedroom in there for affordable. Impossible.
It will be significantly more expensive, and there was, and it sounds like you've watched the meeting from the Affordable Housing Trust, there was no appetite to commit any funding to subsidize the project. So no, without sewer, there can't be enough dwellings for there to be affordability restrictions. And part of the reason the Affordable Housing Trust is not able to commit funding is because some other articles that are before us at town meeting. Toby Brown's being probably number one there.
Tracy?
Hi, sorry. I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but I am covering Christy through her maternity leave. and I
Okay,
was on,
no, I didn't
and
know
I was
that.
on the trust meeting. I just want to make everybody aware that, as we know, we have different tiers of affordable housing.
Mhm.
And at 240% AMI, it doesn't qualify for the SHI list, working towards safe harbor. So generally, the trust use their funds for that purpose. And so I just want to make everybody aware that attainable housing at 240% AMI doesn't qualify for that.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay, all right. At this point, I'm going to ask for a motion.
Denise, can I,
Joanna?
could
Yeah.
we, what would be the implication if we just said we take no action and then we did a comment, as opposed to going against the sewer commission?
John Giorgio, would we, instead of take no action, because that is a negative, that's a negative implication, is there a pass over opportunity? The Finance Committee decided to pass over these two articles? John Giorgio, please come back.
Sorry about that. I'm here.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I think a motion to take no action is the equivalent of a motion to pass over.
Okay,
And I would not necessarily characterize it as negative. A motion not to adopt is certainly negative.
okay, all right. Okay, thank you, John. In some cases, we use take no action to be negative, but not so negative.
Exactly.
Chris is shaking his head because for, the 8 years
He
I'm
doesn't
on
like them.
Finance Committee, he has never been able to persuade me as to what it all means. So,
Everyone can
there you
all
go.
decide what gradation we've used in our no action.
Thank you. Okay, so now with clarity from Mr. Giorgio, is there a motion on the table?
What kind of comment, since we will be voting on something that will have a comment associated with it? What do you,
I am not able to write a comment in the second, Jeremy, so unless you can come up with one in the next 3 minutes, we have a couple of articles that we had suggested that we wanted comments for, which I was going to have prepared for the meeting on the 11th, in which case we would then say, do we want to put these comments in or not? So,
got it.
yeah, that's how comments, we can say yes or no to a comment later and keep it separate from the actual motion.
Denise, can
Joanna.
we get a sense of how the group is feeling about this?
Sure.
Right.
Before we make a motion and second it.
Before we make a motion and second it, because I think that, the discussion that we had completely illustrated the point that I was trying to make. Right. I
Yes, it
think
did.
there is a group of intelligent, committed people here who want to see affordable housing on Nantucket. Stephen has a decent project. Yes, it has some challenges. I appreciated Tracy's comment about the affordability. We still need that tier of affordability in our community. It's very important. Right. And so to keep pushing or kicking the can, as everybody likes to say, down the road, we're not taking action on something. And we've spent so much money on affordable housing. I would like to see there be some results.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask the committee members right now, which way are you leaning in terms of your options are? Motion to support the sewer commissioner's recommendation, motion to take no action, motion to, that's it. Those are the two. So maybe I'll have a thumbs up, do it that way, then I'll count thumbs. So the first one, motion to support the sewer commissioners. That's 3 thumbs out of, how many are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
May I make a comment, Denise?
Yes, Chris, go ahead.
Just as much as I may have liked the sewer commission to come up with a different decision and make this a 50-50 vote, they didn't, and I just don't believe we have enough to go on to reverse what the sewer commission did. So it doesn't take away from any of the very legitimate points I've heard here today. But I just think we've got to back up the sewer commission, who also happen to be the select board, by the way, who fully understand the implications around affordable housing. That's not lost on any select board members.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so motion take no action. Can I see a thumbs up for people who want that? Joe, Joanna, Jeremy, Peter. Okay, so my famous straw poll, that's 4-3.
So I'm happy to make a motion to take no action.
I'll second.
Okay, made by Joanna and seconded. I don't think we need more discussion. Joanna, wait a minute, hold on a second. I think this is not going to be a straightforward. This one won't be unanimous. And this is for 78 and 79, by the way. So we're going to do both together. So the motion is take no action. Nay. Okay, Joanna.
Aye.
Jeremy.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Jill.
No.
Chris.
No.
And Denise, no. That passes 4-3. Okay. All right. Stephen, Stephen Maury, do you have any financial interest in Article 80, or can you come back from recusal? It's the Cliff Williams one. Okay, Stephen has probably stepped off for a minute. So
He's back.
oh, you're back. He brought reinforcements. Okay. Sewer Commission said did not approve Article 80, Town Sewer District Map Change 44 Skyline Drive. Cliff, I do not believe is online. Is Cliff online, Steve Hunter?
I do not believe so.
Okay, he would have waved his hand. Knowing Cliff, he's probably waiting for town meeting. So, okay. So do we need discussion on this, or can we go right to a motion on this one? If we need discussion, we can have it. We just have to.
Can I ask a question, Denise?
Of course, Joanna.
Is this the same, are we applying the same set of considerations to this project that we applied to Stevens? Right? I'm asking that question.
Yeah. Yes. Jill?
Well, so, Joanna, you're kind of getting to what's going on here. I mean, this is like a spot sewer, but you now want to make this a sewer district? I mean, again, I feel like this is just over this is way above our pay level, in my view.
Can I?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joanna.
Yeah, I hear Jill's point. I just don't want to be applying rules to different situations in different ways. And so I would be inclined to say we take no action on this as well as we did the last one. And I think that for me, if I'm trying to force any particular issue, it is an issue about how we decide who gets to develop housing and who doesn't. And what are the benefits and what are the pros and cons of each site. And I don't think that we've done a great job of applying that fairly over these projects. And I'm not, or others that we've looked at. And this, for me, again, what I'm trying to represent is over these many years of being on this committee and hearing about affordable housing and how desperate we are for it, I want us to be fair and to make good decisions about who and how we endorse or support. And so I think that you can't say, okay, well, I like Stephen's project, but I don't like Cliff's project if we're evaluating them on the same terms. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
I think that
Joe?
I'm sorry.
I'm
Can
sorry.
I
Go ahead,
her?
Jill, and then Joe. First
Okay.
Jill, and then Joe. Okay, go ahead.
I don't disagree with you at all. And I really like consistency. I do. So we're on the same page there. But to me, I think that's why the Affordable Housing Trust exists. And he did appear before them. And they weren't ready to move forward with something with him. Now, that might change. Maybe that would change with this one between now and May. I don't know, but I have to go off the information I have. And the HTF has a lot of projects in the works, actually, that are out to bid. And so I'm uncomfortable. I don't like spot zoning either, and I don't like spot sewer. And that's why all this makes me uncomfortable. It's not actually directed at Stephen personally.
Right. And I respect that. I think what we're talking about is what Tracy said. We're not talking about affordable housing. We're talking about accessible housing, which in our community is just as critical as affordable housing.
Do we know that
Okay.
it's sustainable housing?
Do we know that Cliff Williams project or what Cliff wants to build on his property is attainable? Then I would have to ask Stephen Morey. You would know. Do you know Stephen, or do we need to have Cliff? And we're talking to Stephen as a citizen and not as a member of the finance committee. He's recused again. Or not. I don't know. Are you recused, Peter, Stephen?
Yep, sure. My camera's back off. That means I'm recused.
Okay.
I'm
Thank you.
not in a position to say what Cliff is willing to do with his property. I'm just,
Okay.
I know he wants to do something for the community, but I don't know what, and I couldn't speak to what he would commit to.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So Joe, the answer is no, we don't know. Art?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the committee could view this article differently than the last one. This one only had 3 points on the checklist, so it was even quite a bit different than Mr. Morey's. To Mr. Morey's credit, he has been in discussions with the neighbors and made it, an effort, and I think neighbors have as well, with you get somewhere or not. This article of this particular property, I think, is a different set of circumstances, which is why it was scored less. I think it's important to remember that all these properties still could be served by sewer. Septic. Don't want to rehash the discussion from last night. But that, there's also an environmental protection that is greater for the island when the capacity in the needs areas is used for those sensitive areas versus here. And so with that, I think that the committee would be justified to vote differently on this article because of that difference. And I would also remind you, it's not just going against the Board of Sewer Commissioners, it's also the town manager's recommendation and the sewer director's recommendation that have all put, a lot of work into this. So anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Art. Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to support the sewer commissioners.
Thank
Second.
you.
Second.
Okay. So Peter. Wait a minute, hold on a second. I have to write down the motion. Support. Okay. Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
Hi.
Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Stephen,
Madam Chair?
John.
is-
Yes.
Did Stephen recuse from this or not? I'm confused.
Not
He-
from this article, no.
Not from 80. Because that's
Okay.
Cliff Williams, but he did have information about Cliff Williams, so he recused to be
Well,
faux
no,
Chris.
That doesn't really work. If Stephen does not have a reasonably foreseeable financial interest in this article, he
I
can.
do not. I should not have recused. It was a bit tongue in cheek that I could turn the camera off. I shouldn't have done it. Yeah.
Okay, so you can, so as long as you don't have a financial interest in this article, you can vote it. You can cast your vote.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Stephen, I think you voted already, but I'm just checking. Jeremy.
Aye.
Okay, Denise, aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, Tracy, you are over to you. Thank you for your patience. Article 81, real estate
right.
lease license of Baxter Road property for erosion control.
Hopefully, I'm not doing that one. I think Vince is doing that one.
Yeah, Vince is on.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
I'm here.
All right, Vince, over to you.
Thank you, Denise, and greatly appreciated for your time on this one again this year. Very super duper quick recap on this project. This is chapter 67(1)(e) of the town code, means that we need an annual town meeting vote so that we can lease land belong to the town to undertake the construction of a coastal engineering structure. This is the Baxter Road GeoTube project, essentially. People want to protect their homes. The select board is on board with this project. It has partnered with the Baxter Road residents on this project. The Concom is drafting a positive motion. We hope to close, a positive draft order, and we hope to close on March 12th, next Wednesday. last year. The FinCom had a positive motion on this. We tabled it at town meeting because we weren't there. We are now. We'll be done in plenty of time ahead of town meeting. It offsets the cost of other projects for the alternative access project, and this project is of no real cost to the town other than supervision and oversight for the project. I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Thank you, Vince. Nicely done, by the way. Joe?
Is this an extension of the existing geotube?
It is bringing the existing geotubes back into compliance and extending.
Sorry, I can't understand you, Vince.
No problem. I'm foreign.
Well, Joe is from Canada.
Yeah, it's a re-permitting of the existing geotube template and an expansion in phases.
And it's paid for by the residents of Baxter Road.
Correct.
Thank you.
Peter?
Yeah, Vince, I'm confused. Maybe I didn't read this right, but what's changed that all of a sudden everybody's supporting geotubes? I thought all these people said they didn't work.
The residents on Baxter Road have consistently and wholeheartedly lent their support to it and their financial support to it. The town select board has supported this project in its current form as partners since I think it was October of 2023 when they came on board as partners. The Conservation Commission has suspended the geotube removal order for the existing geotubes in order to hear this, and now they're drafting, they have a draft positive order, draft OOC, order of conditions, that they've been working on since last August. It has been extraordinarily carefully picked over. There's a lot of fine detail in it, and the town is in a position where we would hold a lot of the straws to have them held fully accountable.
It's interesting. They almost came to fistfights at one point. Now everybody's happy. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? May I have a motion?
Motion to
Oh,
adopt.
Joe, thank
Motion
you,
to
Joe.
approve.
Thank you. Motion to adopt from Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Peter. Okay, everyone. So, Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Denise, aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Vince. 93, Tracy, now are you going to be up or shall we ask Vince again?
Nope, that's me. Yep, that's me.
Thank you, Tracy.
Mine are very dry. Article 93 is about Tom Nevers Road. I was working in conjunction with Mike Burns on the bike path plans, and this sort of cleanup project came about. Turns out that the 60 feet of Tom Nevers Road, the 40 feet in the middle is a town road, and 10 feet on either side is owned by the state, which was not intended. And so they own it in fee. So this is just cleaning it up. We've spoken through town council. We have spoken with Mass DOT, and they have graciously agreed to convey all these little parcels all the way up the line of Tom Nevers Road to the town. And then the intention is for the town to convey the full width of the full 60 feet of the road to the county for the project. For the bike path project. So that's about it. If anybody has any questions, I think it's pretty straightforward.
I don't see any questions, so may I have a motion, please?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. May I have a sec? Okay, made by Chris, seconded by Peter. Okay, Article 93, Peter.
Aye.
Okay, Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
and Denise is aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, long-term lease of portions of 48 Sparks Avenue and access and utility easements. Article 94, please, Tracy.
So this has to do with the Nantucket Education Trust. They are desiring to build additional staff housing up where the school buses are, abutting the football field. That's town-owned land. So we already have a long-term lease with them with the existing housing on Cow Pond Lane. This would sort of entertain from their plans using the same access area where their parking lot is, and connecting additional housing. I think their plan is to have 3 duplexes up there on the hill. And so they have requested a long-term lease from the town, and we're looking for the authority to be able to do that.
Okay. Any questions for Tracy? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. Made by Peter, seconded by Joanna. And Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Denise, aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Motion to adopt, unanimous. Okay, utility easement, Article 95, portion of 10 Nobodere Farm Road Airport Housing, Select Board for the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission.
So this one is sort of standard procedure. The airport is building a new housing unit, and this is for electrical equipment related to that project. So they have, I believe they're in construction now, so they have a temporary license for that construction. But this is for the permanent easement from the town to National Grid.
And that's the same as Article 96 as well, so we could do the two together, Tracy?
Article 96 is a different location.
Okay, so let's just get done with 95 then. Thanks. Sorry. I thought I got all excited when I saw utility easements on both of them. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Joe. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jeremy. Thank you. Okay, Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Denise, aye. That is unanimous. Okay, all right, 96, please, Tracy.
Sure. So 96, like I said, it's a similar scenario in that it's electrical equipment related to the ramp. Noah might be able to weigh in a little bit more particular about what it is, but again, it's a temporary license they have in place now, pending the grant of the permanent easement to National Grid for the equipment proposed. And I believe I gave a sketch plan in the packet of the location and sort of what the equipment, where it would be located.
Yeah, we did get the maps. Thank you, Tracy. Any questions? Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Joe. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
aye. Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, 97, real estate disposition, utility easement, 16 Broad Street.
Right. So, continuing on with the methodology here. Again, there's some equipment going in at 16 Broad Street, pretty significant. And so we're just perfecting the ability to grant that easement for that equipment to National Grid.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, guess what I want?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Peter. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Joe actually was first. So, Joe,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Guess what? Unanimous. 98. Utility easement, Waite Drive. I think we're getting the hang of these, Tracy.
Great. So as you probably know, the town is constructing a new dorm on Waite Drive, and this is the associated electrical equipment related to that. And so same thing, it's permanent easement to National Grid for that equipment.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none. Joe?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Joe. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, Joe,
Aye.
Jill, Peter,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Guess what? Unanimous again. And the last one, 99, conveyance of 7 Amelia Drive to the Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
So this is a little bit interesting. The town, purchased separately a lot that connected the roadway, or for the purposes of connecting Waite Drive to Amelia Drive. And then once that road was laid out through the county, it left a residual lot, which is 7 Amelia Drive. It's kind of a small lot that the town would like to RFP out through the Affordable Housing Trust. So this is an article that allows the town to dispose it and transfer it over to Affordable Housing Trust for the RFP.
And Tracy, what size building could go on that lot?
Very
You know?
small, very small lot. The plan is up. That's how many square feet. There's actually part of that electric we just did. There's a utility easement that goes around it. If Stephen wants to put up the plan I provided, I can kind of explain it a little bit more.
No, I was more curious than needing
It's
that
very
to be able
small.
to
It
enter
has
it.
it has a very limited scope. I think some of the proposals floated out is maybe a nonprofit with a small apartment above, kind of a thing. Very small though.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? May I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Joe. May I have a second?
Second.
Oh, hold on a second, folks. I somehow ended up with a phone call that I didn't hang up on. Okay. Yeah. Okay, sorry. My phone forces my computer to ring. So, and it's telemarketer time. So this whole meeting, it's been boing, 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 boing. And I hit the wrong button this time. Okay, sorry. Joe made the motion. I'm back. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay, motion to adopt. It's been seconded. And Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Denise, aye. That's unanimous. Okay, Tracy, thank you very much, and thank you for your patience.
Thank
So-
you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
no,
everyone.
thanks a lot. Okay, so committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Anybody on the committee raising their hand? Seeing none. Okay, the date of our next meeting will be Monday, March 10th at 4 o'clock, fully remote. And we will have a meeting on March 11th, fully remote. So, originally we thought that was going to be our spillover day, and yes, it is. We will not get done with everything on Monday. The to-dos that have come out of this meeting is that, Libby, I will work with you to have Mark Willett send the technical or the project description of the equipment for the PFAS to the members of the committee. And I think that was the only to-do that came out. And then, on March 11th, there's been a couple articles where we've suggested we wanted comments. I will take a first stab at drafting some comments, and then we can take a look at those on March 11th as well. If we choose to insert them or not. We don't often comment, so we do them sparingly. And with that, is there any other business? And seeing nobody raising their hands, I want to, before we ask for adjournment, because everybody's quite snappy at that. Thank you for everybody who attended and helped out with tonight. And may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
It's always my favorite. So, okay, Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Thank you, everybody. See you. Have a good weekend, and see you on Monday.